My brother's fiancé kicked me out of their wedding after I announced my pregnancy. Hi Reddit, I25F. Let's call me Emily. Never thought I'd be writing one of these long posts. But I'm at my wit's end with my brother 28M, Ryan, and his fiancée Jessica, 27F. This whole thing started off small, but has now snowballed into family drama I honestly never imagined I'd be a part of. Some backstory. I got married to my husband Daniel 26M in May of last year. It was a beautiful, simple wedding surrounded by our close family and friends. We've been together since college, and we knew we wanted to start a family quickly. Daniel and I both come from pretty family-oriented backgrounds, so kids were always part of the plan. Just a couple of months after our wedding, in July, Ryan proposed to Jessica. Honestly, I was thrilled for them. Ryan and I have had a typical sibling relationship. We bicker sometimes, but I love him and I've always wanted him to be happy. Jessica seemed fine at the beginning. She was bubbly, very extroverted, and I thought maybe she'd bring Ryan out of his shell a little. Finding out I was pregnant. Fast forward a few weeks later, I found out I was pregnant. Daniel and I were overjoyed, but we decided to keep it quiet for the first trimester just to be safe. We didn't even tell our parents right away because we wanted to make sure everything was okay first. By the time October rolled around, I was about 3 months along and finally felt comfortable sharing the news. We gathered my family together, my parents Tom and Linda, Ryan, and Jessica, and announced it. I thought it would be a happy moment. Instead, all hell broke loose. You stole our spotlight. The second the words left my mouth, Jessica's face dropped. Ryan looked uncomfortable, and then Jessica just snapped. She accused me of stealing their spotlight, saying I hadn't given anyone time to celebrate their engagement before I made everything about me. I was honestly stunned. Daniel and I had waited months to share our news, and it wasn't like I announced it at their engagement party or anything. We literally told the family privately. What really stung was how hypocritical it felt. Ryan and Jessica got engaged 2 months after my wedding. Technically, they didn't give me much time either, but I didn't care. I was genuinely happy for them. Things escalate. From that point on, things got uglier. Jessica started venting to the whole family group chat, saying we were downplaying their wedding and that no one was acting excited enough for them. My mom, Linda, tried to smooth things over by reassuring her that we were all happy for them, but Jessica wasn't having it. Then Ryan piled on. He said that I always stole attention, bringing up the fact that when I was younger, I had a serious illness and got diagnosed at a young age. According to him, I've been hogging sympathy since then. That comment cut deep. Like, sorry for not choosing to get sick? The wedding meltdown. Things hit their peak when Jessica asked me to be a bridesmaid. At first, I agreed, even though I wasn't thrilled about being close to her. I figured it would keep the peace. But then we had a sit-down conversation where Jessica literally listed out everything she hated about me. That I wasn't excited enough to be in the bridal party. That my pregnancy was ruining her wedding vibes. That I make everything negative because I'm quieter and not as bubbly as her. And then she straight up told me, I don't want your negative energy in my bridal party. You're out. I didn't even know how to react. My jaw was on the floor. At that point, I told her fine, but if I was out, then Daniel, her fiancé's best man, mind you, would also be out. And Daniel backed me up 100%. He told Ryan he wasn't going to stand by Jessica publicly humiliating me like that. Jessica freaked out even more, accusing me of manipulating Daniel and trying to sabotage their wedding. Ryan just stood there silently while his fiancée tore into me. Where things stand. So now, I'm out of the bridal party. Daniel is no longer best man. Ryan and Jessica are furious at me and basically icing us out. My parents are upset because they want everyone to get along, but they're quietly on my side because they think Jessica massively overreacted. Jessica is still sending passive-aggressive texts about how I couldn't let her have one moment without making it about me. She's even told extended family that I ruined her wedding, which hasn't even happened yet. At this point, I'm just heartbroken. I'm pregnant, stressed, and instead of celebrating, I'm getting attacked for daring to exist while my brother is engaged. I honestly don't know if Ryan and I will ever recover from this, because he's chosen to stand by Jessica through all of it. Reflection. The worst part is this was supposed to be a happy time for all of us. I wanted to be there for my brother, cheer him on, and celebrate his marriage. Instead, Jessica turned it into a competition, and Ryan let her. I've been going back and forth about whether I should even attend the wedding. Part of me feels like if I go, I'll just be walking into more hostility. Part of me doesn't want to hand her the satisfaction of winning by staying away. And part of me just doesn't care anymore. I have bigger things to focus on, like the baby growing inside me. I keep asking myself, is this something I should try to fix, or is it healthier to step away and let Ryan live his life with Jessica, even if it means losing him in the process? Update. My brother's fiance kicked me out of their wedding after I announced my pregnancy. Hi everyone, it's Emily again. I wasn't planning on updating, but since so many things have happened since my original post, I figured I might as well share. Writing it out helps me process, and honestly, it feels like something out of a soap opera. Immediate fallout after the post. When I originally wrote my post, Daniel and I had already decided he wouldn't be Ryan's best man anymore. That caused more drama than I even expected. Ryan blew up in the family group chat, saying Daniel was punishing him for Jessica's decisions, and that a man shouldn't abandon his brother just because the women are fighting. Daniel didn't even hesitate before responding. This isn't about women fighting. It's about the fact that your fiancé humiliated my wife, and you stood there and let her. My dad, Tom, actually stepped in, which is rare. He usually avoids conflict. He told Ryan point-blank that he was disappointed in how he was handling things, and that Daniel was right to support me. My mom, Linda, meanwhile, was in tears because she kept saying she just wanted both her kids happy, and she didn't understand why Jessica was making everything a war. Jessica? She doubled down. She posted this long rant on Facebook. Yep, she went full Facebook warrior mode about how some people can't let others shine, and how she was removing toxic people from her special day. She didn't mention names, but literally every single person knew it was about me. The bridal party blow up. A couple weeks later, one of Jessica's bridesmaids, let's call her Hannah, messaged me privately. She said she was uncomfortable staying in the wedding because Jessica had turned every single conversation into bashing me. Apparently, Jessica had a whole group chat just for venting about me. Hannah told me she thought Jessica was being unhinged and didn't want to be a part of it anymore. That made me feel a little less crazy. Like, okay, I'm not imagining this. Jessica really is obsessed with painting me as the villain. Ryan, of course, got wind of Hannah backing out, and instead of realizing maybe his fiancée was the problem, he blamed me. He said I was turning her friends against her and ruining her wedding from the inside. The wedding decision. By the time the actual wedding rolled around, this was in March, I was about 6 months pregnant. At that point, I honestly didn't have the energy for more drama. Daniel and I talked a lot about whether to even attend. My mom begged me to come, saying it would mean a lot to her if both her kids were there. So we compromised. We would attend the ceremony, but not the reception. That way, we were technically present, but I wouldn't have to endure hours of fake smiles and side eyes. When Jessica found out about this plan, she sent me a long, passive-aggressive message about how it was disrespectful to skip the reception. I didn't respond. I just left her on read. The wedding day. The day of the wedding was tense. Jessica looked beautiful, I won't lie about that. Ryan looked nervous. My parents were trying their best to act normal, but you could tell they were walking on eggshells. During the ceremony, everything was fine. But afterwards, during photos, Jessica completely ignored me. Like, wouldn't even look at me. Daniel tried to make small talk with Ryan, but Ryan brushed him off. It was clear we weren't wanted there. So after the ceremony ended, Daniel and I quietly slipped out. We didn't make a scene, didn't cause drama, just left. My mom texted me later saying she understood and that she was proud of me for keeping it classy. After the wedding, here's where things get even more interesting. A month after the wedding, Hannah, the ex-bridesmaid, reached out again. She told me Jessica was already complaining that married life wasn't what she thought it would be, and that Ryan wasn't romantic enough. Apparently, Jessica had been posting in private Facebook groups about how she settled, and how she thought being married would feel different. I didn't feel smug about it, but I did feel validated. Like maybe Daniel and I weren't crazy for seeing the red flags. The baby shower drama. Fast forward to June, my baby shower. My parents hosted it, and of course they invited Ryan and Jessica. To my surprise, they actually came. But Jessica made the entire thing about her. She loudly complained about how tired she was from all the stress of planning the wedding, which was already over. She also kept touching my belly without asking, which drove me nuts. Then, in the middle of gift opening, she leaned over and said, "Just so you know, we'll probably be pregnant soon too, so don't get too comfortable being the center of attention." I had to bite my tongue so hard not to say something nasty. Daniel later told me he saw my face and was worried I was going to snap. Where things stand now. As of today, Ryan and Jessica are still married. We're civil, but we're not close. Jessica doesn't like me, and honestly, I don't like her. Ryan has chosen her, which I expected, but it still stings. Our relationship will probably never be what it once was. The silver lining? My baby girl, Sophia, was born healthy and perfect in September. My parents are over the moon being grandparents, and Daniel has been the most amazing dad already. Jessica tried to pull the "we're trying to" card at Thanksgiving, and I just nodded politely. At this point, I don't even engage. I focus on my little family, and that's enough for me. Final thoughts. I wish things had turned out differently. I really do. I wanted to celebrate Ryan's engagement and be there for him on his wedding day without all this drama. But Jessica made it clear she sees me as competition, not family. I've accepted that. I can't control how she feels, but I can control how I respond. And from now on, my priority is my baby, my husband, and my own peace of mind. Final update. Years later. My pregnancy drama with my brother's fiancée, now wife. Hey Reddit, it's Emily again. I wasn't sure I'd ever come back here, but I saw a memory pop up from Sophia's first birthday the other day, and it reminded me of all the chaos from years ago. A lot has happened since then, and I feel like it's finally time to put this story to rest with a true final update. Sophia growing up. First things first, my daughter, Sophia, is now 4 years old. She's spunky, sassy, and has the biggest heart. She's obsessed with Disney princesses and insists on wearing tiaras to preschool. Daniel and I have loved every second of being her parents. My parents, Tom and Linda, are absolutely smitten grandparents. Every Friday, Sophia has Grandma and Grandpa night, where she stays over, eats 2 mini cookies, and refuses to go to bed on time. It makes me so happy that she has such a strong bond with them. Where Ryan and Jessica stand. Now for the part most people probably care about. Ryan and Jessica. They're still married, but from everything I've seen, their relationship is strained. Ryan and I talk occasionally, but it's surface level. He'll ask about Sophia, and I'll ask about work, but that's about it. Jessica and I are polite in person, but we don't text or call. She still has this passive-aggressive streak. Like at Christmas last year, she jokingly said Sophia must get her stubbornness from me, while making this face that wasn't joking at all. They did end up having a baby, a little boy named Ethan, who's 2 years younger than Sophia. He's adorable, and I genuinely love being his aunt. But Jessica immediately turned motherhood into another competition. Every milestone Sophia hit, Jessica would make comments like, "Well, Ethan is going to be taller," or "We're not letting him watch TV like Sophia does." At first, I tried to brush it off, but eventually, I realized Jessica isn't going to change. She's always going to see me as some kind of rival. So instead of feeding into it, I stopped engaging. When she makes comments now, I just smile and change the subject. It drives her nuts, but honestly, it's peaceful for me. The wedding fallout years later perspective. Looking back, I see that the wedding wasn't really about me or my pregnancy announcement. That was just the spark. The real issue was that Jessica wanted complete control and validation, and when she didn't get it, she lashed out. My brother chose to stand by her, which hurt, but I understand it more now. He married her, so of course he felt he had to support her. It doesn't mean it didn't break something between us, though. We'll never be as close as we were before she came into the picture. My parents' role. One good thing is that my parents never wavered. They made it clear from the beginning that they weren't going to play favorites, and they've stuck to that. They show up for both Sophia and Ethan equally, and they keep things civil with Jessica without feeding her drama. My mom told me once that she feels like Jessica expected the family to orbit around her, and when we didn't, she started resenting us. That pretty much sums it up. Finding my peace. For a long time, I carried around this bitterness. I kept replaying everything Jessica said, accusing me of stealing the spotlight, saying she didn't want my negative energy, kicking me out of the bridal party. I wanted her to apologize, or at least acknowledge how awful she was to me. But here's the thing. That apology is never coming. And I've made peace with that. I can't control her. I can't change Ryan's choices. What I can do is focus on my own family, on Daniel, Sophia, and the life we're building. Where we are now, Daniel and I bought a house last year in a quiet neighborhood. Sophia has her own big pink room. Daniel finally has a garage for all his tools, and I have a little office where I work from home part-time. It's not flashy, but it's ours, and it feels safe. We're also expecting baby number 2, due in a few months. This time, I told my parents privately first, then waited until after the first trimester to share the news. Ryan congratulated me politely. Jessica said nothing, which is fine. I don't need her excitement. I have enough joy for myself. Final reflection. If there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's that sometimes family doesn't end up being who you thought it would. I always pictured Ryan and I raising kids side by side, having family barbecues, our spouses getting along. Instead, it's been rocky and tense, with Jessica constantly turning things into a competition. But I also learned that my little family is enough. I don't need Jessica's approval. I don't need Ryan's constant validation. I have Daniel, who stood by me through every fight, and Sophia, who is the best part of my life. And soon, I'll have another little one to love, and that's what really matters. So this is my final update. No more drama posts, no more looking back. I'm closing this chapter and focusing on the future. Thanks for listening to my story. TLDR, a final update. Sophia is now 4 and thriving. Ryan and Jessica are still married, but their relationship seems strained. They had a son, Ethan, and Jessica still tries to compete with me. My relationship with Ryan is civil but distant. My parents remain supportive and neutral. Daniel and I bought a house. Sophia is happy, and we're expecting baby too. I've accepted I'll never get an apology from Jessica, and that's okay. My family is my peace. Stories number 2. Whipped for uninviting my brother because he is trying to ruin my father's funeral. I have 3 younger siblings, 2 brothers Andrew and Ben, and 1 sister Claire. When we were younger, my father discovered Ben was homosexual. He was enraged, and probably would have disowned Ben on the spot if it was not for the intervention of our mother. Dad and Ben never reconciled, and Dad did everything in his power to make Ben as uncomfortable as possible. Us siblings stayed close, but eventually Ben could not take the constant abuse anymore and moved out. Claire followed, but for career reasons. Andrew and I stayed in our hometown. Dad died of COVID complications few days ago. As the eldest son of the family, it became my responsibility to prepare the funeral. He was a prominent member of the local community, so attendance will be high. Now we come to the main issue. Ben wanted to give a eulogy and sent me a draft of his speech. Unsurprisingly, the contents were not flattering, and I rejected him on the spot. He got really angry and told me that this was his best chance to expose Dad's hypocrisy, especially since he had the image of a good family man. He wanted everyone to know how much abuse he suffered at the hands of our father. Now, I love Ben unconditionally. He is my younger brother, and there are not a lot of things I would not do for him. However, this is one of them. It is simply not appropriate to speak ill of the dead at their own funeral, which is supposed to be a celebration of their life. For all his ugly, hideous flaws, Dad was a complicated person, and focusing the entire funeral on his relationship with one person is too much. There is also the fact that letting him do such a eulogy will probably cause a massive fallout in the community. Ben will not have to deal with the consequences because he lives in another state, but Andrew and I will be left picking up the pieces. Claire is on Ben's side for this one, while Andrew is on mine. I want to stress that I am not trying to cover for my father or what he did to Ben, but there is a time and place for such things, and a funeral is not it. Ben eventually backed down, but his husband has tipped me off that Ben is still preparing to cause trouble. I really do not want to do this, but it seems to me that uninviting my brother from the funeral is the only choice. Whipped if I did so? For those asking why I would even want to honor such a horrible man in the first place, it's complicated. Dad was a great father until the incident, which happened when I was in college. It's not easy being torn being 2 people you love, and even though I can say I did not hesitate to choose Ben, Dad was still the person I grew up admiring and loving. I'm still sorting my own feelings out and trying to reconcile the loving father that raised me and my siblings with the man who threw away everything for his petty prejudices. For those asking about the fallout, it has to do with the town's local politics. That's all I'm willing to say. Going to do a last few clarifications here because people are making a lot of assumptions. No, we did not cover up the abuse. All 4 of us siblings have been clear to our friends and family why we moved out of the family house, and my mother has also made it clear why she and my late father were estranged, even if we did not go out of way to air the family's dirty laundry. Ben has also made it clear that he does not resent any of us besides our father, and us falling out would just be what our dad would have wanted. I might have understated a bit when I referred to the eulogy draft as unflattering. It was vulgar, vile, and definitely not appropriate for a funeral. Even if I had agreed with Ben's plan, there was no chance I would have approved the draft. The eulogy would have reflected badly on him, and not my father. I am not going to ask Ben to keep the abuse a secret. He is free to tell anyone he likes, on Facebook, the local obituary, etc. I just think that the funeral is not the appropriate time, and especially not through an eulogy. Top comment. Commenter. Firstly, I'm sorry for your loss. I'm going against the grain here, white EA. Denying Ben closure to keep up appearances in the community is cruel. You and others experienced your father in a very different way than he did. Do I think he should read a eulogy? No, but he shouldn't be uninvited. He may cause a scene, he might not. I guarantee he's going to show up with, or without your permission. He'll be responsible for how he behaves. Update. First of all, it would have been a mistake to rescind the invite to my brother, and thank you to the people who pointed out that I had no way of keeping him out of the church without asking security to throw him out. That would probably have been almost as bad, if not worse, than the eulogy. I had to deal with a lot of people during the funeral preparations, many of them unpleasant but influential, and really was not in the right state of mind to make decisions. It was also wrong of me to try to deny Ben closure, though I do have to say that the comments accusing me of being complicit in or not having done enough to stop my brother's abuse were out of line. A singular post where I am actively trying to limit personal information is not a fair basis from which to extrapolate our family relationships, and it seems to me that many of the commenters have their own emotional baggage that they are trying to project onto my relationships. I met up with my brother and his husband a few days after he gave me the eulogy. Thank you to those who suggested I ask about his motivations and provided alternate perspectives. We had a surprisingly brief talk. In short, Ben did not want us, his immediate family, to Leonize our father. We agreed that Ben would come, but we would leave the eulogy to Dad's friends, and we would hold a private wake for his immediate family only. The funeral was mostly uneventful. A few questions were asked by the priest and my father's friends why none of his children or his wife were giving eulogies, but I just explained that we were leaving it for the wake. At the wake, we all got to say what we wanted to say. I will leave it at that. Thanks to whoever suggested the after-funeral party. We went to our childhood home and had a great time. Due to COVID, we really hadn't had the chance to meet up much, and this was first time we've had in a long while to catch up. After the funeral, we published an obituary with sections from each part of the family. It was tacitly worded, and choosing the right words was a pain, but Ben had fun with his section. All in all, I think the matter was settled quite nicely. Thank you again for everyone who gave advice, and everyone who provided their kind words. Final comments. Commenter 1. Congratulations on your willingness and ability to compromise and your deft diplomatic skills. Let me add, NTA of course. Reply. Thank you. But most of the praise should go to my brother's husband. I cannot thank that man enough for everything he's done. I figure that by the time we met, my brother was already ready to drop the issue, and I'm glad we found a solution where everyone could be satisfied. Commenter 2. It's great that you were able to pull together as a family to deal with situation. Reply. It's great, isn't it? I'm really lucky to be surrounded by wonderful people. Take the issue of my father's inheritance, for example. I have heard horror stories of families torn apart by fighting over scraps, and even though I love my siblings, money can change people, and I really was not looking forward to executing the will. What's more, my father left the majority of his assets in generation-skipping trusts, so I thought that Ben would be upset for sure. We settled it on the day of the funeral. God, I'm so lucky. Stories number 3. My father and stepmother say they're not truly married because they couldn't adopt each other's kids. So here's the deal. I-18F. Let's call me Emily. Grew up in a very religious household. My mom wasn't all that religious, but my dad definitely was. He was part of this very intense church that claimed to be Mormon, but honestly, it was like a Mormon Plus version where all the rules were turned up to 100. My mom and dad married super young. She was 19, he was 20. They had my older brother Josh when she was 20, then me at 22. From what I've been told, my mom felt trapped by the church, but she stayed because she was young, scared, and already tied down with kids. When I was 1, my mom got really sick, and by the time I turned 6, she passed away. That's where the real madness began. The church rules. One of the big rules in my dad's church is that if you're widowed, you're expected to remarry within a year. It's almost mandatory. Ideally, you marry another widow/widower, but marrying someone who hasn't been married before is allowed. But here's the kicker. To be considered truly married in the eyes of the church, you have to adopt each other's kids. No exceptions. If you marry someone with kids, you either both adopt or neither of you do. Otherwise, the marriage isn't recognized as real, and you're treated like you're just living in sin. And if the adoption does go through, you're considered no longer part of your biological family. Your original family ties basically get erased. It's like a reset button on your identity. That's how extreme this group was. Enter my stepmother. 8 months after my mom died, my dad met Karen, my now stepmother. 10 months later, they were married. She already had 2 kids from a previous marriage, Mason and Lily. Right away, the church pushed for adoption. So my dad and Karen filed paperwork to adopt each other's kids. But here's where things went off the rails. When it came before the judge, both me and Josh made it very clear we didn't want to be adopted. We acted out in court. I honestly don't even remember who kicked up more fuss, me or Josh, but the judge sided with us. He said he wasn't going to force 2 unwilling kids into an adoption. The judge even offered to let Karen's kids be adopted by my dad without forcing us. But the church said nope, it had to be all or nothing. So the adoption didn't happen. Fallout. From that point on, things in the house were ugly. Karen's kids resented us because they thought we were the reason the family wasn't real in the church's eyes. My dad and Karen resented us too, because without the adoption, they weren't recognized as a married couple, which meant no more kids, no adopting new children, and basically living in permanent religious limbo. They tried multiple times to refile the adoption, and every single time me and Josh put our foot down. We said no, and the judge wouldn't override us. So, my dad and Karen were stuck living as roommates, according to their faith. The bitterness in that house grew by the day. Escaping. When Josh turned 18, he bolted the same night. He went straight to live with our mom's side of the family. My dad freaked out. He even tried to call the cops, claiming my mom's family had kidnapped Josh. He also tried to get the church to intervene and demand Josh come back. It was laughable. The police said Josh was legally an adult, and the church had no power over anyone outside of its bubble. Seeing Josh leave gave me courage. A few weeks before my own 18th birthday, I packed up and left too. I went to live with my mom's family, just like Josh. My dad tried the same routine. Cops, church threats, guilt trips, but none of it worked. For the first time in my life, I was free. The encounter. Fast forward to a few weeks ago. I was out running errands for my aunt and uncle, the ones I live with now. And who do I bump into? My dad and Karen. I honestly thought they might just ignore me, but nope. They walked straight up like they'd been waiting for this moment. Karen immediately started in. You ruined our lives. You ruined Mason's and Lily's lives. You and Josh were selfish, and because of you, we've never been truly married. We've lived as outsiders in the church for over a decade. My dad nodded along, looking angry but also a little desperate, like he wanted me to suddenly say I was sorry. And you know what? I snapped. I laughed, right in their faces. Then I said, well, if you two actually believe all that, then why are you even out here together? You're not really married, remember? Shouldn't you be living apart? Isn't this just improper cohabitation? Karen gasped like I'd cursed in church. My dad looked like he wanted to melt into the floor. Karen hissed, that's not respectful. You were raised in these beliefs. You shouldn't mock them now. And I said, raised in them, yes. But I never bought into any of it. It's all nonsense to me. If you chose to let your whole lives be ruined over a failed adoption, that's on you, not me. Then I walked away. Aftermath. Later, my aunt told me word had already spread through the church grapevine. Apparently my dad and Karen were humiliated that I called them out publicly. Their kids, Mason and Lily, now in their 20s, supposedly avoid family gatherings because they're bitter we robbed them of a normal religious life. But here's the thing, I don't feel bad. Not even a little. Me and Josh were kids. We didn't want to be adopted, and the court respected that. The church rules were insane, and my dad chose Karen and the church over his own children. That's not on me. So yeah, maybe I mocked them. But after everything they put us through, they deserved it. Reflection. Looking back, I sometimes wonder what life would have been like if my dad hadn't been in that church. If he had just remarried without all the adoption pressure. Maybe things would have been better. Maybe not. But I know one thing for sure. I don't regret leaving. And I don't regret finally speaking up. Update. Months later, my father and stepmother tried again. Hey everyone. It's been a few months since my original post, and honestly, a lot has happened since then. I didn't expect this many people to care about my story, But the support and the blunt honesty I got really made me rethink some things about my dad, my stepmother, and the whole religious mess I grew up in. When I last posted, I had run into my dad and stepmom at the store and mocked them about not being really married in their church's eyes. I know that was petty, but at the time it felt like the only power I had after years of being forced into their messed up belief system. Well, things blew up shortly after. 1. The confrontation with my dad. A week after that store run-in, my dad actually showed up at my grandparents' house, my mom's parents, where I live now. He wasn't invited. He just came to have a talk. My grandpa basically told him to leave, but my dad insisted he wasn't leaving until he set the record straight. According to him, by mocking him and my stepmother, I was not just being disrespectful, but was also hurting their marriage in front of others in the church. Apparently, some church members overheard part of our argument in the store's small-town problems, and word got back to their community leaders. Now my dad and stepmom are facing pressure because people are questioning why they still live as husband and wife if the adoption failed. My dad had the audacity to tell me that my rebellion as a child ruined their chance at a godly marriage, and that now I was continuing to sin by making their lives harder. I laughed. Not gonna lie, I straight up laughed in his face. I told him that maybe if his marriage depends on whether two kids agree to a forced adoption, then maybe it wasn't a marriage worth having. He went red and stormed out after my grandma told him to get off her property. 2. My stepmother's email. A few days later, my stepmother sent me a long email. I'll summarize because it was like 4 pages of self-pity and religious guilt tripping. She said she always loved me as her own, which is a lie, because she constantly reminded me that I wasn't really her daughter. She claimed she only wanted a big, blended family, but that me and my brother destroyed that dream. She admitted she resented us for blocking God's plan and for humiliating her in front of the church. Then, and this is the kicker, she begged me to reconsider the adoption now, even though I'm already 18, just so that she and dad could finally be married in the eyes of God. Y'all, they want an adult adoption now, at 18, just so their church will validate their marriage. I didn't even respond. I forwarded it to my aunt, my mom's sister, and asked her if she wanted to laugh with me about it. She did. 3. My brother's perspective. I talked to my brother, let's call him Daniel, about all this. He's 20 now, living out of state with our uncle. When I told him about the adult adoption request, he went silent for a second and then said, "You know they're going to keep trying until the day they die, right? That church doesn't let people admit failure. They'd rather keep twisting reality than just admit their marriage isn't recognized." And honestly, he's right. Daniel cut off contact with them a long time ago, but he told me I should consider blocking them completely too. I've been hesitant because a part of me still hoped maybe my dad would, at some point, realize how messed up all of this is and just apologize. But Daniel doesn't believe that will ever happen, and deep down, I don't think I do either. 4. Running into the stepkids. Now here's where it gets more dramatic. Last month, I ran into one of my stepmother's kids, Ethan, 17 now, at a local diner. He saw me and immediately got nasty, saying stuff like, "You ruined my mom's marriage. You and Daniel are selfish for not letting us be a real family. We could have had siblings and cousins by now if you weren't so stubborn." I asked him if he realized how creepy it sounds to blame an 8-year-old me back then for destroying adults' lives. He didn't care. He just kept parroting the stuff his mom and the church probably drilled into him. It hurt, though. I'm not gonna lie. Because even though I know it's not my fault, hearing another kid, well, he's basically grown to tell me I ruined his life stings. I wanted to scream that his mom ruined all our lives by putting religion above actual relationships. But I just walked out. 5. Where I'm at now. After all of this, I've had to face something really hard. I don't think my dad will ever see me as his daughter first. He sees me as an obstacle to his holy marriage. My existence, my choices, my refusal to play along. They all make me a problem in his eyes. I've been talking to a therapist, my aunt helped me find one, and she said something that really stuck. They wanted unconditional obedience from you, not unconditional love. That hit hard. Because it's true. If I had just obeyed and gone along with everything, I probably would still be in the family. But because I had boundaries, because I said no, I was cast out. 6. My plan moving forward. So here's where I'm at. I've officially blocked my stepmother everywhere. I've told my dad that if he shows up uninvited again, I'll call the police. I'm focusing on finishing school, building my own life, and leaving all that toxicity behind. Daniel, and I are planning to spend the holidays together with my mom's family. We're honestly closer than ever, and I'm grateful for that. I know my dad and stepmom will keep spinning their story about how I ruined their marriage. But you know what? That's not my burden to carry anymore. If their church needs kids to validate a marriage, maybe they should rethink their definition of love. Final thoughts. It still makes me angry sometimes, but mostly I just feel free. For the first time in my life, I don't feel like I owe them anything. And if they really believe they're living in sin because they never got to adopt me and Daniel, well, that's their problem, not mine. Second update, half a year later. Hi again, everyone. It's Emily. I didn't think I'd be back with another update, but things have been a lot. After I posted the first update, I honestly thought things would go quiet once I blocked Linda, my stepmother, and made it clear to my dad, Richard, that I wanted no contact. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's that they don't actually respect boundaries unless it benefits them. 1. The church mediation attempt. So, a couple of months ago, I got a letter in the mail. Yes, an actual handwritten letter from one of the elders at their church. Apparently, Richard and Linda went to their church leadership about the estrangement and painted me and my brother Daniel as rebellious children who turned the family against them. The elder asked me to attend a family mediation session at the church to repair what was broken. I don't go to that church anymore and never will, but I was still furious. My dad didn't even ask me directly. He went through his church like I was some lost sheep they needed to drag back into the pen. I didn't respond, but my grandma Margaret told me she wanted to call the elder herself and set the record straight. I asked her not to. I didn't want more drama stirred up, but I could tell it broke her heart that her son is still dragging me through this mess. 2. The college visit gone wrong. Here's where things get worse. I recently started community college, trying to get my basics done before transferring to a 4-year. I was walking out of class one day, and guess who was waiting near the parking lot? Yep, Linda. She walked up to me like we were long-lost best friends, all smiles, and said she just wanted to talk. I told her flat out I wasn't interested, but she started crying in the middle of the parking lot, saying things like, "I've always loved you like a daughter. This anger you're holding is ruining our family. If you just let us adopt you, your dad and I could finally be right with God." I was so stunned I couldn't even process it at first. But then she said something that made me snap. "Your mom would have wanted this." I told her to never speak about my mom Sarah again, ever. My mom died when I was young, and Linda has no right to use her memory as a manipulation tactic. I walked away while she was still sobbing, but I was shaking the whole drive home. 3. Richard's phone call. A week later, Richard called me. I didn't answer at first, but he left a voicemail basically saying he was disappointed in me for embarrassing Linda in public, that my bitterness was keeping our family divided, that unless I repented and agreed to repair the damage, I was cutting myself off from my true family. He ended the message with, "The door is always open if you're ready to come back to God's plan." I haven't responded, and I don't plan to, but the wording was so cult-like it honestly freaked me out. 4. Daniel's reaction. When I told Daniel, my brother, he wasn't even surprised. He said, "This is exactly what I warned you about. They don't want a relationship with you. They want compliance." He's been pushing harder for me to go full no contact with Richard too, not just Linda. I've been hesitant because a part of me keeps thinking, what if someday he realizes how much he hurt us? But the more this drags on, the more I think Daniel's right. 5. My stepmother's kids. Here's something new. Ethan, my stepmother's son, and his sister, Chloe 15, have been messaging me on social media. Ethan sent me another angry DM, basically blaming me again for ruining his mom's marriage. But Chloe's message was different. She told me she feels like she's walking on eggshells at home and that she sometimes wishes she could leave like Daniel did. That broke my heart. Because as much as I resent Linda, her kids didn't ask to be raised in this nightmare either. I responded carefully. I told Chloe she can always reach out if she needs someone safe to talk to, but that she needs to be careful what she says around her mom. I don't want Linda twisting it into me poisoning her kids. 6. Therapy progress. My therapist has been helping me a lot through all this. One thing she said that stuck with me is, you can't negotiate with people who only see you as a role in their script. You'll never win, because the script was written without your consent. That's exactly what this feels like. Richard and Linda have this whole story in their heads where I'm the rebellious daughter who destroyed their family, and nothing I do will change that. I could agree to everything tomorrow, and they'd still find a way to blame me for something else later. 7. Holidays ahead. The holidays are coming up, and Margaret, my grandma, is already stressed. She knows Richard will probably try to show up again, either at Thanksgiving or Christmas, and she doesn't want a repeat of last year's blow-up. Daniel and I talked about it, and decided we'll host a small holiday at our Aunt Rebecca's house instead. That way Richard can't just walk in. It sucks, but honestly, I'm done sacrificing my peace just to keep some kind of fake peace with my dad. Where I stand now, I'm 100% no contact with Linda. I'm 95% no contact with Richard only because I haven't blocked his number yet, but I probably will soon. I've started building friendships outside my family, and for the first time, I feel like I'm creating a life that's mine. I'm keeping the door cracked for Chloe, because she clearly needs someone safe, but I'm being careful not to get pulled into more drama. Final thoughts. I know some people will say family is family, and that I should try harder, but here's the thing. They've never treated me like family. They've treated me like an obstacle, and I refuse to spend my adult life bending over backwards just to be seen as worthy of love. So yeah, I think I'm finally leaning toward full no contact with Richard too. It hurts, but at least then I'll be free. Stories number 4. I'm renouncing my passport when I hit 18. I hate it here, trying not to be political and instead focus on my personal experience. Also, I'm not critiquing all Italians ever, so please don't come at me with, "Oh, but I'm a good one." I live in Italy and I fucking hate it. All of you foreigners who romanticize this country, please take my place. I'm begging you. If I had to stay here forever, I'd rather kill myself than rot another day in this cesspit. Some backstory now. I'm half Italian, half Ashkenazi American. I grew up in an English-speaking country and moved here for high school. I thought the adjustment would be hard, sure, but I never expected the sheer hatred. From the second I arrived, I was branded an outsider. I've been called dirty Jew, told to go to the gas chambers, mocked for what I eat, interrogated endlessly about I/P like I'm a walking, motherfucking embassy. And it's not even just that. These people at my school worship their pure blood. They sneer if I claim Italian identity, as if I'm contaminating them. Well, fuck you. I didn't ask to be born with an Italian parent. I didn't ask to inherit your rotten, self-obsessed bullshit. You think I want to be Italian? I'd scrub it out of my blood if I could. I love my dad, though, don't get me wrong. Oh, and the language, the holy, sacred Italian language. Lord forbid I have an accent. Suddenly, I'm some filthy tourist come to ruin their precious cities. It doesn't matter to them that I actually live here, that I've been here for years. I'll never belong. They'll never see me as anything more than a piece of shit in their drinking water, or something. So is it a surprise to say that I'm done? People here wonder why I hate them. I've got the passport, and I'm renouncing it the moment I leave for university. Fuck assimilating. Why would I assimilate into a country that spits on me, that will always reduce me to bloodlines and prejudice? Fuck this country and the way it treats outsiders. Edit. Okay, I didn't want this to turn into a whole thing about the USA. My entire point is I don't care where I go, as long as it's definitely not Italy, and maybe not Europe. For background, I grew up in the UK, so my passports are Italian, American, and British. I've considered what many people have said, and now I'm feeling more calm. I do see that renouncing my passport is a poor move, but I can't help but feel a need to burst into tears whenever I think about being Italian. People have said I'm not in the comments. I live here, speak the language, grew up with an Italian father, so I don't know what more you want. But this weirdness when I try to be proud of my culture ends up filling me with shame. I'm ashamed, deep down. I grew up proud. I loved being Italian, and no one treated me different just because I wasn't British. But now I'm not. I found out what it's actually like, and I hate it. I hate the beautiful cities, the good food, the tourist revenue. It all covers the xenophobic attitude underneath. And maybe I'm xenophobic, as some comments also say. Whatever, I don't give a fuck. Clearly that's a socially acceptable thing to be. That little rant was off topic. Point being, I'll reconsider the renouncing my passport thing. It's clearly useful if I do want to go to the EU. Stories number 5. AITA for not splitting my mom's inheritance with my siblings. I 28F have 6 siblings. Our mom recently passed in November from stage 4 cancer. I had a really great relationship with my mom. We would spend time together, and my 4 children, 5-year-old twins, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old, all loved her. I am the youngest of all my siblings. My older siblings didn't prioritize much time with my mom until the last few months when she couldn't do much for herself anymore. I currently live with my boyfriend 38M and our 4 children in a 3-bedroom apartment. It's a nice apartment, but of course is not ideal for our large family. Over the summer, while my mom was still very coherent, she signed a transfer on death of her house 5-bedroom, 3-bath to me for myself, my boyfriend, and our children to move into. She did the transfer so I wouldn't have to buy the house, as we would not be able to afford a loan for her house. And her house only had less than a year left until it was completely paid off, so we would be able to afford her payments that way. All of my other siblings own their own homes and have plenty of room in their homes for their individual families. I didn't ask my other siblings if they were okay with this, but I didn't see it as their decision or whether they had a say, considering it's our mom's house, and she had final say anyway. And like I said, all of my siblings own their own homes anyway. Once my mom passed, she had some medical bills that needed taking care of, so it seemed as though we would need to sell the house to take care of them. After looking into it more, my boyfriend said he would buy the house at just enough to cover the medical bills rather than what it's worth, considering we cannot afford what it's worth. Plus, my mom had planned on us just moving in and not doing any sort of loan anyway. She had a cash inheritance which she left my oldest sister, Melanie 43F, to split equally among all of my siblings. Since my mom has passed, we have asked Melanie how much is left in the inheritance, as it would be split 7 ways, and she would always kind of dodge the question. She would say she hasn't counted it yet, or she's unsure. My mom also had some coins that were worth some money. She had 4 coins worth about $3,200 and a 5th coin worth about $1,200. I only found out about these coins from my other sister, Rochelle 35F, because she told me Melanie thought about giving me a coin worth $3,200 to herself, Rochelle, my brother Nick 37M, and myself. The coin worth less to another hand-picked sibling. And then just never telling the last 2 siblings about the coins at all. That really upset me. I understand the coins gain value over time, and that's why they didn't want to pawn them for cash to split equally, but that is really unfair, and considering there are not 7 coins, I believe the fairest situation would be to pawn them for cash, so everyone could be involved. I suggested that, and then never heard anything else about the coins after that. And then one day last week, when I had Rochelle and my niece over for dinner, she dropped a gold coin out of her purse and quickly put it back. I never said anything, but I couldn't believe they decided to kick me out of that inheritance because I stuck up for the 3 siblings that were going to be slighted. Well, flash to a couple days ago, my boyfriend got approved for the loan. I told Melanie about this to keep her in the loop, and her response shocked me. She told me she did not feel comfortable selling the house to my boyfriend. I didn't understand, because selling the house to my boyfriend was just a way for us to keep the house so that my mom's medical bills would get paid. And my mom's wishes were for my family to move into the house. After I got off the phone with Melanie, I called Rochelle to see how she felt, but she couldn't talk right away. Once I was able to talk to Rochelle, it was very clear Melanie had gotten to her first and manipulated the situation. So I texted the group chat with my siblings. Essentially, they all want to sell the house at full value to a stranger so they can receive an inheritance of cash from the house selling. Melanie had very obviously made them believe that my mom only transferred the house into my name so I could take care of selling it and splitting the money with all of my siblings. That wasn't the truth, and I tried telling them that our mom did not do that, but Melanie had manipulated the situation. For context, Melanie is the oldest, and all of our siblings can be pretty easily manipulated in a situation when it comes to Melanie. It sounds terrible, but it's true. I can see right through it and tried to say my side, but they are all on Melanie's side. They all want cash from the house, but I want to live in it like my mom had intended. Like I said, my mom transferred the house into my name. So I am going through with selling the house to my boyfriend to pay my mom's medical bills, and so us and our 4 children can live there. My siblings feel like I have scammed them out of an inheritance. But I feel like I found a way to get the medical bills paid so that my family can live there, which is what my mom intended when she was here. So am I the asshole? Update 1 was posted on January 13th, 2025. So first I want to say I am so appreciative of all the comments that seemingly are truly looking out for my best interest. My oldest sister, Melanie, had made me believe that the debt needed to be paid from the house, not the cash estate. She would never disclose to us that there was enough to pay off my mom's medical bills. I contacted an estate attorney and ended up speaking with the attorney who was directly handling my mom's medical debts. He told me that there was no need to sell the house right now, that my family could move into it with no worry of paying the medical debt until the future if I ever decided to sell it. So that's what we are going to do. If we ever decide to sell it, which I don't see right now why we would, as finding a 5-bedroom house is really hard to come by. We will split the sale of the house after her medical debts are paid and of course subtract any money we put into it going forward from their portion. I do agree that keeping the deed of the house in my name is the wise decision, so that I will always have that security with my children if something were to ever happen between myself and my partner. I really appreciate all of the comments making that aware to me and all of the comments wanting to make sure I seeked out a lawyer. As far as the coins go, I didn't mention them because I was upset I wasn't getting a portion. I understand getting the house is a big deal. I mentioned what was happening with the coins to give an example as to why I don't feel I can trust Melanie, and why I feel like she is not being honest about the money and the estate, which she wasn't. There is more money than just the coins that she is not being honest about. The deceptiveness is what hurts me. I feel like I am very open and honest with my family and would never try to deceive them. I would rather all conversations, especially with my family, hold integrity. Once I had felt settled and secure with talking to the lawyer, I texted my sibling group chat to let them know what was going on, that the house will stay in my name. Melanie has been manipulating the situation, and once she thought I was selling it to my boyfriend, I knew she would tell all my other siblings that the problem is not that I was keeping the house, but that it would no longer be in my name. I can tell she is very angry that she can longer spin the story for her narrative. But this is what my mom had intended in the first place. For myself and my children to have somewhere to live, and she always knew my boyfriend was in our package deal. Melanie still seems mad, but I don't see the problem anymore. I'll keep this post updated if anything else happens to come up. Again, thank you to everyone for the advice. It really helped me out so much and put me in a much more secure position. Update 2. I don't have too much of an update currently, however, I don't think I'll have another update again until next week. And I want to keep you guys in the loop of what is going on. Since I have told Melanie that we plan on keeping the house, she has made it her mission, at least how I see it, to do everything in her power to bury me. Melanie is my big sister by 15 years, so I've always trusted what she's said and done. Naively, I guess. Like I've said before, Melanie was my mom's power of attorney. So she made sure my mom's bills got paid toward the end, as that was her responsibility. Once I told Melanie we would be keeping the house, she would tell me she didn't have my mom's account information and withheld all the information I needed to pay her bills. I made all the phone calls and all utilities were easily transferred into my name. However, going to the bank, of course, was a little more difficult. I can't even make a payment without knowing her account number. Melanie has kept all of my mom's paperwork and refuses to give me that information. So I am currently in the process of waiting for the bank to email me a form to fill out to become a person on her account that can make payments. Then once that hopefully gets accepted, I can apply for assumption of her account. I am hoping all of this goes over well with no bumps. Melanie is very angry with me. I told her I didn't feel like she was being fair in the way she was dividing the estate, and that she continues to change the story to fit her narrative for that day or who she is talking to. I told all of my siblings they could go through my mom's house still if they wanted anything of hers before we donate. Everybody has had a key to my mom's house because we would all go over and help her with anything she needed. Melanie then went through the house to take all of the valuables, collectibles, anything that could be sold for decent money, so she could sell it herself and pocket it all. Mind you, I'm not talking about a couple of small trinkets. She took 4 large glass/real wood curio cabinets, 20 collectible cookie jars, at least 100 collectible angels. And she did all of this in one day as soon as she found out I would be keeping the house. So I asked my boyfriend to change the locks. And he did. I'm so glad he did, because I found out that they had been talking about taking the fridge and the stove. Since then, my boyfriend believes that they have been coming over daily to check the trash. They are crazy. Once she found out the locks had been changed, she truly tried to isolate me from my siblings and my dad. They are really the only family I have left. Unfortunately, they are all very easily manipulated. Truthfully, I don't really want to try to reconcile my relationship with them if they are so easily manipulated into cutting me out of their lives. And yes, she manipulated my dad as well. I lost my mom only a month and a half ago, and now in the snap of a finger I've lost everyone else. It's been very hard to deal with, but I truly don't feel as though I'm in the wrong here. Maybe my post seems biased, but I don't feel like I am withholding any information. I also contacted the lawyer who drew up the transfer on death so that I could make an appointment with her to finalize it now that my mom has passed. I also asked her if we could discuss my mom's estate. She then told me that no estate had been filed. I also contacted the probate court in our county to get a hold of my mom's will. And they also told me no will had been documented with them. All of that was Melanie's responsibility. It isn't right. I will definitely come back with an update end of January/beginning of February, as I have an appointment with the lawyer to discuss this next week. Update 3. I think this will be my final update. There are still a few loose ends that need tied, but as long as that goes smoothly, no need for another update past this one. So let's hope for the best. I went to the lawyer to finalize the transfer on death. Everything has been signed as far as the deed is concerned. I spoke to the lawyer regarding Melanie, and she said since Melanie had taken everything out as cash right before my mom passed, the only way to force her to start an estate with it would be to basically take her to court on counts of theft of my mom's money, which I really do not want to do to my sister. I understand what she has done is wrong, but I also understand I inherited a great asset, so I'm just going to call it a wash. A lot of you said to not split the sale of the house with my siblings if ever decide to sell it. I feel conflicted on this. I'm not sure if I will ever sell it anyway. I have no plans of this for the time being. But if I ever do decide to sell, I will definitely take into consideration what it's currently worth before any renovations, time and money that we put into it going forward, and of course the cash inheritance I'm not receiving. I will have to just assume what everyone is getting right now because Melanie would not tell me that either. I could ask my siblings, but honestly, I don't want to put any more effort into it. I'll just assume the highest possible number without being unreasonable. Their fault for not being honest to begin with. My relationships seem repaired with my siblings and my dad. But they are not the same. There is still some uncomfortability there. Because of course they still have a relationship with Melanie, and I don't feel comfortable being completely open with them like I once had been. I am happy the relationships are at least somewhat repaired though. I know they are just feeling caught in the middle of Melanie and I. They don't believe Melanie would lie, and they don't believe I would lie. And I think because I'm the youngest and Melanie is their older sister, they think I'm confused. Like I said before, Melanie is 15 years older than me. So she was an adult before I had even started school. She's always had more life and school experience up until the last 5 years or so. So, although I feel like I've caught up in the last few years, she will always have that older sister leg up on me when it comes to everyone else. Melanie is also now telling everyone that I need to get a personal loan for the house so that I could buy all of my siblings out. That doesn't even make any sense. I would not be able to get approved for such a large personal loan, and the interest would be outrageous compared to a home loan. It would have made more sense for me to get a home loan to buy the house if I needed to buy everyone out. Home loans are much easier to obtain. The interest is lower than a personal loan, and they will give you a much higher loan for a home loan rather than personal. But I wouldn't have agreed to that anyway because I would have gotten a home loan for a house that's move-in ready. My mom's house needs a lot of work. My mom put the house in my name for myself and my children to have and move into. When I spoke with the lawyer, she told me that when she sat down with my mom, that my mom knew that there was an option to put the house into all 7 of her children's names, and that would be a way to keep it out of court, and then I could buy my siblings out. But my mom didn't want to do that because she wanted the house in my name so I could move into it with no loan involved, and she knew my siblings wouldn't be getting a payout from it. I understand how that seems hurtful to my siblings, but that's just what happened, and they definitely got a cash, coin, car, valuables to sell inheritance that I'm not a part of. With all of this to say, I think my siblings are conflicted on who is telling the truth because Melanie spins absolutely everything. I've decided to just be done with any more talk of it. Even if it is to defend myself, it's not worth my mental health over it. I am still in the process with the mortgage company to assume the mortgage, but I'm hoping since the house is in my name and I am currently the one paying the mortgage, that it's just paperwork and there aren't any hiccups with that. Thank you all for the wonderful advice and kind words through each update. They were all so helpful. I truly wouldn't have gotten to this point without the advice and kind words from you guys. Hopefully there isn't another update after this one. And if the Comfort Level podcast happens to have read all of these, I just want to say I am a big fan. I listen to you guys daily when I'm tidying up my apartment in the evenings. You all seem to have good heads on your shoulders and think so rationally. It's a calmness I look forward to. EntitledPeople. I just want to mention that Melanie was the power of attorney which ends at death and was not named the executor. Nobody was. My mom unfortunately did not make a will. She felt like all of us would sort things out fairly. She put Melanie in charge of dividing cash/assets because Melanie is the oldest and she believed Melanie would be fair about it. At the time, I believe she would be fair about it too. We were both wrong. The lawyer told me that because there is no will and no named executor, if we wanted to start a legal estate, all of the siblings would have to agree to name an executor. But that would then bring me to needing to take Melanie to court for theft of my mom's money, since it's all basically cash and unaccounted for. Yes, she is being unfair, and I do believe stealing. But I will not take my sister to court. I'm just choosing to let it go the best I can.